Hi,
You know,
everyone.
you know what? You need to make that entry like that. Come out and bam.
Yeah, I could do my own version of Mr. Rogers.
There. Okay, I'll put that one on. Let me verify that we are good here. Eavesdrop. I have this feeling inside my bones. Today's gonna be good one. Don't let me sing.
Don't let you sing? I don't think I have much of a choice.
I
love it. I love it. I love it.
Paxton, oh my goodness, Paxton, welcome. You're holding our feet to the fire, man.
There we go. It's time to talk. We got people on.
People are on and ready, and that's such a blessing, right? That you can come on and you have people waiting and saying, "Oh, okay, let's hear."
Did you stop singing and start talking?
Welcome to this. This is the 20th EP
for the year.
For the year, so we need to have 26. So we have 6 more to go. Wow, 6 more to go. But anyway, I know
it goes fast. So how have you been?
How have I been?
How have you been?
I'm going to jump straight in, and I think it's going to be deep.
Yeah, I can't handle that. You know that.
I know. Yeah, right. But no, I have for the past 2 months, and I think Paxton, you were there. Paxton was there. I went to visit a church, and when I visited a church, Pastor David comes in and he prophesies and he says, "Well, when I see you on a plateau and you're just standing on the plateau, and all of a sudden I see you suspended, and you're suspended, and it's all these dreams that God has placed in your heart. It's about to come to pass in this season." And you know, when you receive prophecies and you're like, "Okay, God, I hear you." God puts a flag on a mountaintop that says, "That's where you'll go." But between where you are and that mountaintop, you know, we perceive it as mountaintop. And you start to walk, and as soon as you take the first step, it's a cliff, and you're like, oh, what's happening? I'm dropping, I'm going down. And then you land on something, you're like, okay. And then the flag is up there now. And like, okay, and you start to walk, and then you come to eye level with it, but it's still far. And then you try to get there, and then like, oh my goodness, this thing is. But what's happening now is I'm in a place of quiet. The silence is so loud that even if I'm in a room with 1,000 people, I'm not there. How does that look? Yesterday, I was talking to someone, and I saw myself, and it was just a vision that passed, and I saw myself it was a room that was very bright, and I was as if I was in timeout, but the timeout wasn't a negative one. I was sitting in a fetal position in a corner, and it was as if I was resting for something, as if it was preparation for the next phase. How does it manifest with me at home? It manifests, things are going on, and I'm really not engaged. I'm sorry to say. And when I say not engaged, I will go, stop doing that, or yeah, honey, but I'm hibernating. Mm-hmm. My spirit is just.
Can I ask you a question really quickly?
Go ahead.
So there's a difference between not being engaged and not being present. Because we can be present and not engaged, right? Mm-hmm. We can be observing and witnessing and be very present to the moment. Mm-hmm. So are you finding that you're simply not, because what I'm hearing, and this is what I want to kind of, tease out a little bit here, is is that you're approaching your processing and your preparation differently, right? We've been so conditioned to the doing, right? Oh, I want to go on a journey. And so what do I need to do to prepare for that journey? And what I'm hearing is a shift from the doing to the being, right? From this standpoint of how do I need to be in this space, as opposed to what do I need to do? How do I need to be? What do I need to quote unquote do to prepare my being for that next phase? Right? State do I need to be in? What mindset do I need to be in? What spiritual teachings do I need to be, understanding and observing? Where am I maybe doing? Because doing is a huge distractor.
Yeah.
Right. I see a lot of people doing things so they don't feel a certain way, for example.
Correct.
Or doing things because they don't want to sit quietly because they don't know what that's like. And so that's what I'm asking is it a shift in how you approach preparation for next?
It's so I will answer that with I hope I answer that in what I'm about to say.
Just intend you will.
There you go. So there's the, there are two seasons of preparation and season of manifestation, right? That we're always in. And if you're not in either of those two seasons, then you're being complacent. You're just, you're like, oh, I have conquered the world. I don't need to do anything, but we're always coming from a prep to a man. You just completed your book and you're like, yay, it's manifested. But what you got to do now? You got to prepare now to go and start speaking about these things. These different platforms are opening up for you. You will have to get get in the mode of I'm road tripping for this book. You've never done that before. So then you will manifest something there. Thereafter, there's another book you have to prepare for. You start preparing for another one. So we always rolling into these preparations and manifestations if we plan to move forward and be impactful wherever we stand. So I've been in the season of preparation where I, in discovery, I discover who I was in God, discover what my gifts are, and I'm sharpening them. Then I moved into the sharpening of these gifts and waiting now on the manifestation aspect where I am. And it starts with a blade. The blade comes out, and when the blade comes up, it goes. So I'm between there was testing and manifestation where all the different things we've been through, we are now in the place to see, let me see if I'm buffeted. I'm prepared to move now into manifestation. So I'm out of testing, and I think I'm between testing and manifestation. So I don't need to do anything because I've already done all those things in preparation. The testing has been done where I question, am I doing the right thing or am I not? Am I on the right road? I'm in between there, and it's almost as if it's no man's land. It's no man's land where I am.
The abyss. I'm
sitting there and the people say, hey, Wulwyn, come and do this. And I am refusing to do certain things. I am very, very, not selfish. I'm cognizant of where I'm spending my time and my energy. So I'm saying no to things that I would have said yes to in the past. And they're like, what? You? I'm like, yeah, I really can't do it now. And I'm not doing it because trust me, I love to do those things that I'm saying no to, but my spirit is just not saying yes to it because the spirit's, I'm in a cocoon. I'm changing into something and I don't know what I'm changing into but I know I have a feeling of what it's going to seem, what it's going to be. Right. Mm-hmm. So I hope I answered the question with all that, but it's, it was my
intention. I think a lot of people can really relate to what you're saying right now, because I sense that it's a phase we're all in some way. Right. And whether people are thinking about it this way or aware of it in this particular way, the way you just described, mm-hmm. I think you describing it and kind of putting that out there, planting that seed I sense that a lot of people could really relate to what you're saying. It's funny because how it's manifested for me, it literally has been a stop gate, right? So we call it an abyss, right? In the 4-step process, my friend Vinay Raman and I, created, so I don't know if you've heard of the hero's journey before, but the hero's journey is in these stages. And we kind of borrowed the concept of the hero's journey and created this model around the 4 stages of mastery. Mm-hmm. And so the beginning is that awareness stage where we're first awakening to, oh, look, and you think about it as a baby, like I've got these 2 legs and they can make me walk. It's kind of this idea of like, what do I have at my disposal? Mm-hmm. What choices am I making? Or do I have available to me? And then we enter the engagement, what we call the engagement stage. Mm-hmm. And that's when we start to engage with the awareness, like try it on, throw the spaghetti up against the wall to see what sticks, try different choices and see what manifests from those choices. Really trying that out and seeing what kind of starts to float to the top. Mm. And as we start to become more aware of what is floating to the top, which is like, oh, maybe this is the river raft I'm supposed to float on. We enter the next stage is actually ownership. But what we have to go through before we can get to owning who we are, our mission, our soul purpose, all of that, we go through this thing called the abyss, which is a stripping away of those false identifications that we have subscribed to various aspects of who we are and what we do and what we're meant to do and how we're meant to do it and all of that. And it's, many times people use the analogy of the caterpillar to the butterfly, right? We go through this metamorphosis stage. That's what the abyss is. But metamorphosis, as we spoke to last time, is when the snake is shedding its skin, it goes blind, right? So there's this certain having to hang time, right? Where you're jumping across the abyss and you don't know quite if you're going to land on the other side, if you're going to fall into the abyss or whatever, and you're in the air and it's that hang time. And part of the purpose of that process within itself, right? That is its own little stage within the 4 stages.
Gotcha.
Is faith and trust as I see it. Where do we develop faith and trust? Because they're both blind. Mm-hmm. Faith is blind, trust is blind. As much as people believe this concept of trust is, you prove to me that I can trust you, that's not how it works. Mm-mm. You either choose to trust, or you choose not to trust. Doesn't matter even if that person's trustworthy. They could be completely not trustworthy and you could choose to trust them. Right? It's a choice, but it's blind, which means we have to access our space and development of it from a different place, right? That physical reality we're used to bumping up against. And then like, if I do this, then that will happen. Faith and trust doesn't develop there. That's why people struggle with trust and struggle with faith, because they're trying to find proof in the physical manifestation of the day to day. And that's not where you're going to discover it. So and there's plenty of places we go through the abyss phase in many, it's not just once in a lifetime, but that's what I'm hearing, because I'm experiencing the same thing. But what's coming in for me is it's literally been, my body has stopped me. I have been feeling really, really, really like weird stuff, like digestive weird. And it has slowed me way down to honor that this process is happening for a reason, right? And I have to go through the, go through the steps of getting things checked and making sure things are okay, and I am not a person that, one, likes to oftentimes ask for assistance, like, I'll be fine. So it's really challenging me there. 2, I can't do as much in a day. I'm having to take things off of my plate. I'm having to take care of myself first, because my body won't let me do it any other way. It's screaming at me if I don't put it first. Yep. If I don't take time to eat when I need to, if I don't take time to sleep when I need to, if I don't take time to drink water when I need to, it's screaming at me. It's not allowing me to do anything but that. And so there's not a whole lot of time for much else. And so I'm having to be very selective, and I don't know where the end is. But I have trust and faith that this is my body's way of being in alignment with my soul and saying, you need to sit in hang time. You need to develop faith and trust, not only in what your body can do for you, but what your choices do when you make the right ones. because somebody said this to me today. It was a client actually in a session. I thought it was profound. He said, you know, we don't often know how these things work because we haven't been shown. And moreover, we haven't subscribed to what it means to thrive and not just survive. So we're used to being reactionary in our lives, not responsive, right? So if my body is telling me do this, I respond. Instead of responding to that, we wait and wait and wait and wait until it starts to break down, and then we have to react, right? And it's crisis time. And so we haven't been taught how to thrive. We've only been shown throughout history how to survive. Our mindset has been on the negative, you know, focusing on what we don't want instead of focusing on what we do want. What would it be if we started making decisions on a day-to-day to thrive, not merely just to survive? How many times do we hear people say, I'm just doing that to get by? I just need to survive. I just need to get through it. That's survival focus. But what if we started to train our eyes towards thriving? Where might we be doing things differently? And so I'm hearing that as well, is that in order to make that shift, we have to be quiet, because all we've ever been conditioned to is survival.
Yeah.
The concept of thriving is there, but the actioning of it has not been typically.
Correct.
Right? We have moments of thriving, of success, if you want to call it that. But are we focused on, and not just focused on success to gain something or acquire something or succeed in something, you know, or achieve something? Success in thriving, right? How can we shift that meaning as well? And so there's a lot of things to unpack, but I'm hearing all of this kind of presenting itself potentially in that hang time, right? In that quiet time, because if we're busy, we're just doing what we've always done, right? We're just engaged in the conditioning that we've always been under. It takes an abyss, right? You know, like a cocoon stage where we're being transformed and it's sucking away the old, right? That caterpillar literally gets sucked away, gets sucked up. In order to make room for the new, we can't be doing all these other things at the same time.
Wow. Oh my goodness, Traci. So you call it at a base, the hang time. So I see it as a spiritual timeout for me in my process. And as you were speaking, I put in there sustainable thriving. Yes. Sustainable thriving, right? Where it's not just those, you see.
Well, that's thriving. Thriving has to be sustainable.
Correct.
It's almost self-known, you know, that if it's thriving, it has to be also sustainable. We can't,
you know, where people say, I have a breakthrough. I have a breakthrough, and you breakthrough opens up into a place that's sustainable, that just you keep on breaking through. It's just breakthrough is not I break through and then I stop. I broke through. Yeah. No, breakthrough is you break through and you keep on going. You keep rising. So in order for thank you, God. Thank you. What I just saw, I saw a rocket, right? A rocket ship that's picking up, right? When the rocket 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take off, blast off, it blasts off. It's sustained at a certain, you know, rate. And then in order for it to go into another level, it has to drop off some of those packs, and then another boost comes in, and then right?
Yeah.
It's at that away. The fall away. At that moment, I feel it's the fall away piece, and it's what we're talking about, where you're shedding the skin, right? You're at a place where you pause, you're suspended. And it's just what the pastor said. When I was suspended, you come in that place and you just suspended. You're there. And there's a process where people, I need to explain this. You're not depressed when you're alone in this quiet time, because people will perceive it to be, oh, this thing is, and then they will want to act up and make something happen. No, calm down, pause, embrace the quiet, embrace the time where you are introspective, embrace it so that you understand something's going on and it hasn't happened to you before. So, but don't be alarmed, embrace it and walk it through, go through it.
Break down to break through. I mean,
Don't
I think
ambush it. Don't ambush it, right? And when you don't ambush it and let it consume you, let it do what, because it's a good thing, let it go through and do what it's supposed to do. You can't cook the food without it steeping.
Right.
Because the water's going to be in it, and then somebody take this thing had to dry out some more, right? So you got to allow yourself to go through this process when you're in this timeout, because I think the next step is when you are ready to walk into your passion, into what God has put you in to do, because it's there to help others break through. Back to you. You're about to say something.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people, especially high achievers, they really thrash about in this space because I'm not being productive. I'm not, and it can be, and so those tend to be my clients. Well, they say you attract who you are. So tells you something about my personality. I have always thrashed about in life transitions. I was talking to my best friend the other day and I said, if I look at all of my major transitions in life, right, from childhood to teenage years, and a lot of people are like that as well. Not everybody. Some people get through teenage years very, without much thrashing about. But all those major from teenagehood to adulthood, into marriage, right, from being single to being married, from being my only self to becoming a parent, all those major transitions, I thrashed. That is my MO, thrashing, not consciously, right? I didn't mean to. I mean, I think about giving birth. I mean, I probably looked like a caged animal when I was giving birth, stop touching me, like total thrash. And it's really a beautiful thing to be able to step back and recognize that and say, is that what I want to continue to do? Because I'm well practiced in it. I could just keep doing it. And that is, I think, why my body is slowing me down. So I can't thrash, because I know I'm going through a major transition as well. We all are. Yeah. That's why I think this is going to really resonate with people on certain levels. Correct. Everybody differently, but I think we're all going through this transformational abyss, hang time, whatever you want to call it, peeling away, like you said, with the rocket ship, and the things have to peel away. Things have to break down, right? They have to break off. And that breakdown to break through, we can address that in a thrashing, or we can address it by choosing to be in a place of silence, of acceptance, of faith, of trust, of awareness, of observation. Again, everything's a choice. And just because we've done it a certain way doesn't mean we have to continue to do it that way. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I've learned. I mean, I've sat with some pain recently, that literally physical pain, where I just had to kind of honor that my body was telling me things needed to change, and thanking my body for the pain I was feeling instead of thrashing about and trying to make it better. Yes. Yeah. And it passed. I've had lots of pain just pass when I acknowledge it, thank it, recognize its place, honor it, give it what it needs, and it passes. Pain is actually a really important thing. We probably mostly would not survive if we didn't have a pain reaction in our body, because we keep pushing ourselves to beyond limits that we have. And so it's about an honoring of even self. And so there's so many iterations of how we can honor self. We can honor self by feeding ourselves well and resting well and all that, but then we can really honor ourselves by recognizing that our body was made perfectly and that it knows what to do if we just allow it. Wow. We don't keep trying to, force change on it that we think is better for it, and just allow it to adapt to what it's naturally made for. And, you know, the constant fixing that we do in the creative human mind. We need to fix things. We don't need to fix things to make them better. Sometimes we need to sit with them and observe them and honor them and allow them, you know, to be what they are. And it's true of people. It's true of, you know, if you're uncomfortable, like, I love that you said it's not depression. Going inside and breaking down to break through is not depression. The more we stick these diagnoses on things, and I'm not saying legitimately some people don't need support for depression. What I'm saying is, as soon as you feel bad does not mean you're depressed.
Correct.
And as soon as you're processing through something, my favorite work in this is Kelly Brogan. Kelly Brogan is a trained clinical psychiatrist. And she talks about this very thing. A Mind of Your Own is her first, I think it's her first book, but it's where she really talks about this idea of clinical depression and anxiety is simply your body giving you cues and clues. And it's not something to diagnose and medicate. It's something to actually listen to and prescribe a better care system for. What is your body asking for? Communicate with it, listen to it. Don't just try to fix it. Because in our world, fixing it just means make the pain go away. Throw a drug on it or whatever, you know, and don't try to get to the root cause and listen to what it's saying. Just make it go away. Make the pain go away. That is not helping. And I want people to recognize that you don't have to be scared of your own devices. You don't have to be scared of your own abyss. You don't have to be scared of your own hang time. I mean, yes, get support if you need it, by all means. You know, get the care and support that you need, but allow yourself to go through it. Don't feel like there's, first of all, anything wrong with you. And second of all, that you need fixing. Right.
You know, you were saying this, and from my end, most of these things are spiritual, right? Most of these things are spiritual, and we want to attack a spiritual thing with a physical remedy. And you will miss it every single time. And it's why you see, you said it, you know, the symptom is this, and then they put a tablet on it, and then it removes that symptom, and it morphs into something else. Whereas if you can find within yourself, pause it and find within yourself, my spiritual panacea is Jesus. You know, it's the Holy Spirit. I say, okay, God, you came, by your stripes I've been healed. The symptoms are coming, show me, help me. And as you said, sometimes it's resting, sometimes it's, you know, it's going to the doctor. Sometimes it's taking the pill, right? It's taking the pill. So it's
sometimes, as long as you're not just throwing it at it and not investigating.
Correct. So I have to go to Carl. I'll answer this, but I think you will love this question. Carl goes, how do we get off the roller coaster of just survival? And I want, let me see what else. What Paxton goes, truth is I have moments of thriving. There you go. So there was a time you were talking, and oh my goodness, the barrage of wows and likes and loves. I think it was when we were explaining faith and trust. That was such a clear, you know, people tend to think when you hear those words, it's, oh, you get to be so spiritual, and yes, it's spiritual, but faith and trust, those are important things for us to practice. You have to practice those things. But I'm going to hit you with this question, and then I'll come thereafter with what I perceive. How do we get off the roller coaster of just survival?
We choose to. That's I mean, as simple as that sounds, it starts with a choice. Because if we're on a roller coaster of survival, it's a choice. So if we don't want to be on that roller coaster of just surviving, it's a choice. And how we choose is as we first make the decision, right? If we look at the derivation of decision, it is to cut off other options, right? Making a choice is to say, I am not going to be on the roller coaster of simple survival. And we can look at, no matter what the circumstances of our life, if we're looking through the lens of thriving, we will experience it as thriving. When I am not feeling well and I have to go back to bed, I am looking at that as a thriving experience. Most people would say, you're not thriving, right? Things are hurt and you're having a hard time. That's not thriving. It's my definition of thriving because I'm choosing to give myself what I need in that moment. I am thriving, right? Can I get to higher and higher levels of thriving? Yes, things are on a continuum. It's not like start and finish, and that's all there is, right? There's this continuum. And so we can always advance and continue on. We will always continue to continue. Right, until we don't. But, even then spiritually, we don't go anywhere. We just, don't always look the same. And so it really is about deciding. And then with that decision comes a mindset. I mean, we have to remember that things happen, right? Circumstances happen. And we can't always, control that. And oftentimes we can't, right? It's not within our control what the circumstances outside of us are. Everything else past that circumstance is within our control. That circumstance happens and we have a thought about it. That's under our control. What am I choosing to think? That thought leads to a more defined meaning. Now I'm subscribing a story to that circumstance. I choose that too. That meaning and that story gets me feeling a certain way. I have emotions about that. That is also my choice because I chose to have that thought and carry on that storyline. And that was my choice of what story to give it. And those emotions, therefore, are my choice. Emotions then lead us to act. Again, our choice. We chose the emotion, we chose the action. Those actions lead to outcomes. Those are all our choice. So this idea of being on a roller coaster of survival, from the moment something happens, the meaning we give it, that cascade that comes from that is all within our choice point. And is it a struggle? Yeah, this is why working with coaches and counselors and therapists and consultants, and depending on what it is that you're trying to improve, is so important. Because again, one is our blind spots, the belief systems we carry that keep us blocked from being able to make those changes in all of those choices I just mentioned, are unbeknownst to us much of the time. So helping other people who have a bird's eye view of our life that we can't see ourselves is going to be incredibly important. But wherever that comes from, whether that comes from going to church and listening to your pastor speak, whether it comes from just picking up the Bible and reading it yourself, whether it comes from looking into leadership books and, or listening to podcasts, or getting somebody who can focus on listening to you and helping you uncover these ways and patterns that are keeping you on that roller coaster. All of it is within your choice. So how do you get off that roller coaster of just surviving? You choose to.
You choose. Wow. I like that. I'm not going to touch the answer to, I'm not going to touch answering that. But as you were speaking, I heard a couple of things that I want to just jump on. Paxton goes, thank you for reminding me, Traci, that I have a choice. If you remember, did you watch Cars? The first Cars part one?
Yeah, the movie.
The movie Cars. And he's about to win. And Lightning McQueen, right? Yeah, Lightning McQueen. Lightning McQueen is rolling, and his indicator comes on like, tires, tires, change your tires. And he's like, I'm rolling, I'm gonna win this, and then the tire blows right at the finish line. And then I don't know who passes, but his nemesis, he just, he goes, oh my goodness. See, I think that's us when our perception of winning, right? When the indicator comes and you're talking about your body comes and say, hey, you rest, and you're looking on the other lane and saying, oh my goodness, these people are going to win, but we're never in a race with others because what you have is unique. Wulwyn cannot do what Traci does. Wulwyn cannot, even if we're so-called consultants or whatever, if we're in the same field, I cannot go and say, oh, Traci just wrote a book, I got to hurry up and write a book. No, this was the time for Traci to write her book. You will write your book also. Take your time, stay in your lane, change your tires, change your oil. Do those things Have your quiet time. Spend time in the so-called abyss. Break down for the breakthrough. You have to go through the process because Traci's been doing that. In order for her to do what she did, she had to go through that process. But you're trying to jump over your breakdown because you're thinking, I'm in a race with Traci or with someone else who's in your field, and you jump over breakdown. You get to breakthrough, but you cannot sustain breakthrough because breakdown was the main factor. The things that were happening in breakdown were factors that will sustain you to thrive. But we say, oh my goodness, I got to hurry up and do this to fix this thing up before you got to go through your process. There is not a single great person, not a single great person who hasn't gone through that breakdown. And if you show me one who jumped over breakdown and got breakthrough and is standing, they're not standing there for long. It's not sustainable. So this process is we have to go through breakdown. We have to go into spaces where we're quiet. We have to go in spiritual timeout, in that white, bright room where you're just sitting down and nothing that goes around you affects you. Not the TV, not the family. I mean, I'm doing, they say stuff and I do it, right? And I'm present. You know, you ask that question and I do it and I say, okay, honey, I'll fix it. But when I'm fixing it, I'm just going through a physical action, but my spirit is still over there going. And then when you do this and you rise, when you stand and start to operate in that gift and in that place where you're supposed to go, the different things that will come and buffet and come and attempt to move you from this place, when you were in breakdown, it was those things that were coming and you were processing. I'm not going to move because of that. Traci wrote a book. I'm not going to move. Cornelius Kirk did a video. It's not my time to do videos. And then no external factor moves you, so that when you do get to breakthrough, when you're standing up doing it and you see the distractors, they're like, dude, and like, I know who I am. I know why I am. That's why I'm going to do this thing that I am. And then you find yourself going through the metamorphosis of rising to the next level and the next level and the next level.
I love that so much. I'm here. So I'm channeling my friend Alan Simmons when he like hears things that are just like, woo,
gotcha.
He starts to snapping. You know, that what you just so eloquently explained is absolutely 100% true and so needed. It's so needed for people to hear that. Because we're so afraid of the breakdown, and yet with the breakdown comes the breakthrough. And the other thing, I mean, I was talking to a client about this today, is many people are afraid to experience their emotions. That's why they've just been shoving them down. So there's a lot in there that if they did start to feel them all, it would feel depressive. The thing is when we actually acknowledge our feelings, when we actually address them, sit there quietly. I am feeling X, I am feeling sad, or I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling, you know, whatever it is you're feeling, and just sit with and acknowledge it. It reminds me of a small child. Like, you know, I know my daughter, it's a certain age, you know, she would try to get my mommy, you know, attention. And I'm, you know, on the phone, or I'm trying to do something else, or mommy.
Yep.
Now, if I continue to ignore her, it would escalate.
Yes.
Right. But if I just leaned down, picked her up, put her on my hip, honey, what is it? You know, I'm trying to do this, but I'm kind of attending to her. I'm addressing her needs. She would quiet down. Our emotions are the same. You know, what I always tell people is you would be absolutely astounded if you sit with your emotions, how quickly they actually move through your body. But it's when we tell these stories and we get them trapped in there, and we cause the suffering through the putting it into the story and the holding on to it, not the like just acknowledging it and letting it pass.
Yeah.
That we feel the pain. That's where we just keep it clogged and buried and burdened. And when people get triggered from an old wound, it's because they never dealt with that emotion way back when. It's still in there. And now it's coming up because it got triggered. So let it come out. Let yourself to break down, to break through. Let yourself physically, emotionally break down if you need to. It's okay. You're not going to break. You're very resilient.
They call me crybaby. They call me crybaby because when I'm happy, I cry. When I'm sad, I cry. When I'm in between confused, I cry. And I am so okay with it. Oh my goodness. Good. Because after I cry and do that, I go, okay, I see what happened. I'm telling you, you're sore. And I was writing something in my journal the other day, and I wrote, I feel, ... And then I said, it seems, ... And after I wrote it, I came back and read it, and I said, it feels, it seems. Is it really the truth? It feels. So sometimes our emotions play tricks on us. Sometimes, not all the time.
Well,
right?
It depends on the story we're telling.
Correct.
So yes.
Correct.
If we're not telling the right story or not telling the story that's in alignment with the direction we want to go, then
there
yes.
you go. So I had the story wrong. I had the story wrong. And I wrote the story with the words, it feels, it seems, I feel. And then when I came back to read it, I was like, feels and seems. No, that's not what I'm feeling. Yeah, it does feel and seem, but the truth isn't that. The truth is, and I looked at it and said, what am I telling myself? What am I telling myself when I go through something that, so my daughter told me the story, she and her friends are sitting down at lunch and they were looking at this girl pass and they go, oh my goodness, but they didn't say aloud, she's so cute. Her arms are so, she's so fit. And they're like, wow. The girl's friend saw them and he came up to them and said, look at y'all. You guys are so embarrassing. And he talked down saying that you blah, blah, blah. So there was a word, an S word, savage, no, not savage, but something she said, he said to them. And they looked at him and said, do you even know what we're talking about? You're assuming stuff. That's how our emotions, when we tell the wrong story, the story says, you're saying this, and you have to pause and say, no, you don't even know the true story, emotion. Here's the true story, so we can fix this thing, the thought, the story we're telling ourselves before we react in a particular way that's not aligned with this. Cornelius goes, I'm sorry, I'm looking and I'm doing multiple things in my head, so I got to come down to this piece. Cornelius goes, hey man, I love these conversations. I don't get to have as many thought-provoking conversations as I would like. Then he goes, then I'm reminded that being quiet is the best conversation we can probably have, right? Yes. So and Carl, thank you for your question that you asked about how do we get off the roller coaster of just survival. Paxton, thank you for your input. We're not ending. I'm just going through to make us come up to par on where we are. But yeah, so, Traci. So we talked about.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I address what Cornelius just said?
Sure.
So I love that. And I know exactly what you're saying. My daughter said to me the other day, she goes, Mom, I'm kind of frustrated because I'm the go-to person with all my friends. They come to me when they need advice or they need a shoulder or they need something. And when I need the same, they're not there, or they don't provide me with the same feeling that I know I provide them. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, why do you think your friends come to you, honey? And I said, do you think it's because you have something special that, that they need in that moment? She says, yeah, I guess. I said, do you know what makes things special? Not everybody has it. Mm-hmm. I said, so that expectation, I said, I know it's hard. That's why they say it's hard at the top, right? It can be lonely at the top because what you're providing, the reason it's so extraordinary and special is because most people don't have it. Mm-hmm. They don't have the wisdom you have at your age. They don't have the ability to, be there and hold space for people, the way you do. That makes you special, but it also means that not everybody has what you have. So when you turn to someone else to get that, you're not going to have it. So go looking. I said, it's taken me my whole life to just find, a few people who I know I can have that with. Right. I know I offer it to the world, and there's only a few people I can go to for that same fueling.
Correct.
But the key point is not to feel disappointed in others because they don't have the specialness that you hold. It's to find opportunities to feed into those needs. So it may not be your friends, maybe it's your mom you come to. She goes, yeah, that's how it is. I'm like, okay, well, until you find other people your age who have that, work with what you have. Mm-hmm. And I know with Cornelius, you offer, I'm going to talk directly to you. Hopefully you're still on. You offer so much. I mean, I watch your engagements on social media, and what it comes from deep within. This is not a head game this man is playing. This is something that is his soul is speaking, to the world. And it can feel really off sometimes when you engage with other people and they're not doing the same. They're not doing it the same way, or they're not able to reach those depths.
Correct.
But provide a platform and invite people in. And sometimes they'll fall short because that's just where they're at. Right. But other times you'll be surprised that you'll have people show up on that platform and they'll engage in those conversations that have deep meaning to you.
Yeah.
So we always provide and invite people to what we need. Right. So if you need more of those engagements, provide an opportunity to have them and invite people into that opportunity. Maybe it's time for that podcast show, my friend. Maybe it's time to, have those opportunities to bring people on board, or whatever that happens to look like, mastermind groups or whatever it is, so that not only you are fueling with the beauty that's in your soul, but you're providing an opportunity for you to be fueled as well.
You're saying he's still on, and he was like, "Gish, spot on." The flip. I think Cornelius will be our case study today. Then, what I'll say from what I've observed, from what he does, how it comes across, is because he has had to break down.
Yes, for sure, and allows himself to be vulnerable in it.
He has had to break down a huge breakdown of whatever the issues were, and now he's in breakthrough mode. And breakthrough mode is this: out of the belly, it flows. It will flow out of your belly, and you just can't stop it when it's flowing, right? It's supposed to flow. Whatever's in your heart comes out. The other piece, when I heard you about your daughter, saying for advice, etc., two things came to my mind. One is, it's so hard for us to come to ourselves for advice. But if that's what quiet is, when you come and you introspect and you're talking to yourself, saying, "Okay, oh my goodness, here's what I'm going through," the wisdom that you have, you can use it on yourself, right? Yes. So God gave me the gift of prophecy, and I can prophesy. I can speak to somebody, and I can get these visions, and I can explain it. God gives the same thing to me, and I'm doing it for myself. Guess what? I'm like, is that true? Is that? I need a confirmation. No, I don't need a confirmation.
Faith and trust. Yeah.
I have to have faith and trust that this thing is happening. But he's almighty, and he still gives me confirmations, etc. That's one of the pieces. And the second one was, when you're engaging people, every single one of us have our zones of greatness, zones of excellence. We all, you have to know who to go to in your toolbox, in your orbit, for whatever that is, because each and every one of us have it naturally, but we have to hone it. We have to practice it. We have to know that we have it, or someone has to come, like your daughter. They keep coming. They keep coming for the honey into the beehive. And she's like, "Why are you just keep coming to me. And then you're like, oh, mom's there to explain, oh, sweetheart, you've got wisdom. You have, okay. And she thinks that wisdom, I need help. I need to go. No, you got to go to the person. But mind you, that person who you go to for wisdom is not the strong suit. They may have something different. Find out what they have. Be that friend who comes and explores and looks at them and says, you know what? You're good at X or you are good at Y. You don't dispense of them because they have something. Each and every one of us have that. And it takes just one person in our circle to say, gosh, Traci, you've got a way with words. You know, you need to do it. And you're like, oh, really? I do. That's true. I have. So instead of us, what am I saying? Thank you. Instead of when we find our excellence and we are engaging others and attempting to see that excellence in others, we're doing our friends a disservice when we don't pause and look at them and go, hey, you know, you're good at X. You're good at Y. And I will say this to people, if you don't know what your full purpose is, if you don't, go and ask your mom. If your mom's still alive, your dad, go and ask your cousins, people who have known you since you were little, and ask them, what did you see in me? That thing that they saw is exactly what you are. I'm dead serious.
Yep.
I am. It is so fundamental. It's so juvenile. But that thing, that is what it is that you are, and that your grown-up self will process it in how you're supposed to be in this current state.
Right. Not even the job title you have or
it's
whatever,
not.
you know, it's not. I mean, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day, and he said, you know, it's funny. He goes, he's in marketing. And he said, I studied to be a doctor, right? My parents wanted me to go. I was in pharmaceutical school, and then I decided to start this startup, and I couldn't do both. And he says, you know, they have nothing to do with one another. And I said, don't they? I said, you know what the through line is that I see? High observance. I said, one of your geniuses is high degrees of observance. I said, if you think about what it is you extract in marketing with your clients, you listen to all that they offer and you extract that down and you put it into an offering for them and you help them promote that, you know, in the language that you use. I said, that takes high degree of observance, right? We're not talking just, you know, average day to day kind of what I notice.
Correct.
High levels of being able to pull out just the key pieces. I said, one of the things that I've always heard is that when people are, you know, on lots and lots of drugs, for example, different doctors are just prescribing and not paying attention. The ones that find out that there are contraindications are the pharmacists, because they pay attention to all of the things that person is right. And I said, so think about all that the titles of what you were, or the careers you were looking at, might seemingly not have anything to do with one another. But the reason you were drawn to all of them is because of your own genius in that area of high degree of observance, right? Your ability to be highly observant. And he was like, oh my gosh. And I said, that's a genius. And it's part of your genius. It's not the only thing, but that is a nugget.
Yes.
Of an area where you are genius and you are applying your genius no matter where you are. So it doesn't matter what job you have. If you love this one, stay in it. Right. But it's that marker that we take into everything we do.
Yes.
And so absolutely. In fact, we were talking with Madison, as you were talking about it earlier, and I spoke to her about that. I said, invite people into that space to develop themselves. They may never be genius like you are. But I said, if they're coming to you for advice, maybe instead of giving them advice, ask them questions and they can figure out their own problems. So that when they are then in a place of quiet and you can't be there for them for whatever reason, they can start to grow that wisdom within themselves. So they're not relying on other people to do that for them. Because as long as we provide the crutch and we assist people, right? It's like teach a person to fish, don't give them a fish.
Yes.
Right. When we teach them how to get better at those things, then they can start to provide that for themselves. And that's, I think, where we're really focusing on empowerment, right? Not just saving people, not just, oh, I'm genius at that, so I'm going to rush in and do it.
Wow.
We can be in those spaces at times, but at the same time, let's invite other people in, to develop themselves in those ways, to as much as they can, but it's only going to serve them when they learn to serve themselves.
Wow. Have you thought about doing a class on words?
I've done, yeah, I've thought of, I've done talks.
Intentional words.
Yeah, on the power of language.
Yeah. And
right.
I'm not talking talks, a class, a place where people can come and you can tutor them on intentional words. Think about it, because I think there's a space, because intentional words, you said something earlier today. You said somebody, when we're talking about how do you get off the roller coaster, you say it's a choice. The thought comes, from the thought comes, then you have an emotion or something you give, bam, bam, bam. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's you naturally. So it's when somebody before someone can give an intentional word, there's a choice. There are thought processes in there. So the mechanics of giving intentional words, I think it's what needs to be taught, because when we do become intentional with our words, oh my goodness, how expressive, how clear, how what's the word? Vulnerable we can become when we're in conversation, because conversation runs everything.
Yes, it does. And what's our intent? So the two questions that I had put to a client today, is he was talking about an engagement on social media where somebody didn't agree with him. And he says, he caught himself and, instead of coming back and going, oh, really? Well, I know somebody who thinks this, this, and this, I know enough people on my side that believe this. He goes, then he stopped himself and said, this isn't a pissing match. Excuse my language, but, we're not in a rivalry situation. Yes. My intent is not to deliver that. My intent is not to be in that space. And he said, but I rationalized, kind of where I wanted to go with it. And I said, and yet I still feel a little tinge of the emotional piece that is bothering you. And so how can we lift that? How can we work with that? Let's just let you process and address that. What is that? Well, frustration that the person doesn't see beyond, the myopic. Okay. So where do we want to just let that frustration, address that frustration? I feel frustrated for this reason. I acknowledge that frustration. I own that frustration. I honor that frustration. And the frustration just kind of, goes away. But I said in the future, what really keeps us in line with ourselves is asking in this engagement, what is my intent?
Yes.
And where am I looking to invite people?
Yeah.
In this engagement, because engagements are all about connection, right? We can choose to disconnect too. We don't have to, connect and stay in that space. We can choose that's not for me. But in that engagement, even if I choose to walk away and not want to be in connection with that person, during that engagement, we are connected. So during that connection point, what is my intent? And where do I want to invite people? People might not come, but where do I want to invite them? I said in this case, he was basically expressing that he wanted to invite a person into it by honoring that they had another opinion. Thank you for sharing, in other words. Gotcha. Like, oh, okay. Well, thank you for sharing your perspective. I really appreciate it. What he was doing there was inviting them into a space where it was diffused of any criticism. It was diffused of any polarity. And in that space that he was inviting that person into, that he realized, and we talked about this, he realized that that's the best place for anybody to start to see themselves. People will never see themselves when we critically tell them what we see. They will only get defensive and push back.
Yep.
But if you invite somebody in and you give them permission to see by just simply honoring them, they can choose to see or they can choose not to see. They're more willing, because again, nobody's going to look when they have their defenses up. But when our defenses are down and we create a space that's safe because we're not being critical, now people have their defenses down to see whatever it is they choose to see, if they choose to see it. So what he was choosing was to invite and create a space of non-polarity.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And just, we do that through honor. We do that through honoring people. I honor, thank you for sharing. That's fair. That's a fair opinion, right? Thank you for sharing, taking the time to share that with me.
And
that's all.
And on that note, thank you for taking the time to share that with us. It's 2:00. We love you guys. We want to respect you. I got something to say, but I'm not going to say it. We'll see you next week. One word, wisdom, Paxton says. And that's it. We thank y'all for coming on Cornelia's as you were in Mexico meditating. Hey, thank you. Paxton, Carl. We truly appreciate you guys being here, and all the others who were lurking and eavesdropping. Hey, Traci, it was a good one.
Yes, thank you all too. I want to say my piece about that too. Thank you all for being with us. I mean, this engagement today was quite valuable.
Engage the quiet. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.